Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns and Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we're going to be talking about the spell Prismatic Spray. Oh, it just sounds dirty.
Not where my mind went, but all right.
That's where my mind always is.
That's where that's Bob's mindset is just a paradise of that.
All right. Well, I like it for other reasons than that. But
Sure.
before we get into that, let's tell us what this spell does, Sam.
Okay, this is a doozy, but not really. So it's a 7th level spell, and like the other prismatic spells, it's supposed to do a bunch of different things. And it's kind of lying to you when it's telling you it does a bunch of different things. It really just does the same thing 6 times, and then sometimes 2 other little things. What happens is you get a 60-foot cone coming out from yourself for an action, with 8 different possible outcomes for things within the 60-foot cone that make a dex save. So you roll a d8 for each creature differently. So each creature gets hit by like a different part of the rainbow, if you will. And that gives you a different effect. So results 1 through 5 are 10d6 damage of assorted variety. So red does 10d6 fire, orange does 10d6 acid, yellow is 10d6 lightning, green is poison, and blue is cold. Then we have the final 3, which are indigo, violet, and special. And the special number 8, it just says you roll twice and re-roll any 8s. You get on the second time. So like if you hit something with an 8, you're probably doing 20d6 damage instead of 10d6 damage because you're probably getting like green, blue, or whatever. But the other 2 that are like different than the rest are indigo and violet, 6 and 7. Indigo, the creature makes is restrained, and then it makes a Constitution saving throw at the end of each of its turns. If it succeeds 3 times, it's over. If it fails 3 times, it's permanently turned to stone and petrified. You got to keep track of both. It's a little bit annoying, but whatever. And then finally we have violet, which is blinded, and then it makes wisdom saves at the start of your next turn, which is a weird time for that to happen. And then success ends the blindness. If it fails it's teleported to a different plane of existence and isn't blinded anymore. So yeah, how 7 works is it fails the dex save, is blinded, it makes a whiz save. If it passes, it's no longer blinded. If it fails, it's no longer blinded, but shunted to a different plane of existence. Sure. Yeah, and that's it. That's the whole of the spell. Initial impressions, Bob. What do you think about this one?
I think it's a lot of fun for the randomness. However, I now see, it is pretty much not as random as I'd like.
Yeah.
It's mostly damage, and then 2. Restrained is cool. Blinded is okay, but then like the banishment part of that is potential is weird. That doesn't seem. Yeah, I get. All right, restrained. Oh, now you're stone. That kind of has a similar theme, but blinded, and then you go to another plane of existence. That doesn't really make a whole lot of sense.
Agreed.
Thematically.
There's probably some like justification for older editions and grandfathering and blinding, light, teleporting. I don't know. There's got to be something out there. I'm sure the comments can let us know. But like, one thing that's neat about it is permanent. So if you roll 7s and they do fail 2 saves consecutively, they're just gone forever. So that's nifty. If they don't have a way back, they're just stuck somewhere out in the multiverse. That doesn't happen most of the time, though. Most of the time, you're just doing 10d6 damage, and sometimes you're doing 20d6 damage, and sometimes you're restraining a creature. And that's fine. Not really. It's actually quite bad, but that's okay.
Yeah, I wish it had like different random effects, like they get teleported 20 feet up in the air or something, or they turn into a frog, or just weird crap. That's
agreed.
That's what I was thinking before I read it more carefully.
Yeah, I think these spells largely promise that fantasy. Like the wild magic sorcerer, wild magic table, I think is one of the most resounding, like fun things that people that like random wild wacky nonsense really like gravitate towards. And the prismatic effects are supposed to be kind of versions of that. The problem is damage types isn't enough of a differentiation to make it feel cool or random. Whenever you use this and you're like, oh, this is just shit fireball. Whoops. Then you're like pretty bummed out about it. The other thing that's kind of a big pain in the ass is because just 2 of the results are like really different than the others. And one of those results has a bunch of weird timings on it and does a completely unique-ish thing. tracking it's kind of an enormous pain in the ass, because like if you fire this out and hit 6 creatures with it, you're rolling 68, one for each of them, have to track of whatever ones are 8s to roll extra dice for those specific creatures. And then if Indigo or Violet get hit, you have to track the specific hit creatures that were not of the ones that didn't get the 6 or 7, which of those are making the saves. And then you have to track, like, if you have the Indigo, for example, and you're starting to petrify, now you have to track 1, 2, 3 creatures making 3 consecutive saves, which can track up to 6 saves, or track up to 5 saves as to like passing and failing, being restrained, which, I mean, the encounter's not going to go past 5 rounds after that anyway. So it's kind of like a lot of extra bookkeeping for not that powerful of an effect. If the whole spell had that much bookkeeping, I'd be like, great, sign me up. I get that's what I'm getting into. Because most of the spell is just Cone of Cold, like, it's hard for me to say that, oh yes, this other arbitrary, sometimes there's a gigantic amount of bookkeeping that falls into it, is really annoying.
Yeah, like, and like you always say, if this could be even cooler if damage types were a more important thing in 5e.
Yes. If you like, I would even say if you like the spell a lot and you're willing to bend and change some rules and stuff, I think an easy way to do a lot of this is just like tack on fire damage ignites things, tack on acid burns away and melts armor and weapons. You say yellow lightning damage bounces and hits extra creatures outside the range or something, right? Like, you could definitely, without very much effort at all, and an extra like 4 lines of text, quite easily make this spell feel more cool and random, even within just keeping the damage types.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of bummed out that they didn't, like, this is a 7th level spell. I feel like this should be in the realm of, yeah, if it's a page and a half, sure, it's a 7th level spell. I'm allowed to, like, if I'm going through one of the big random wild upper level effects, I kind of expect, like, I want to get to that fantasy, and just doing less damage than an upcast fireball, that being the most likely outcome, does not feel great. And even if you get the twice as good as a upcast fireball, like, it's just an 1/8 of the time ish, less than an 1/8 of the time realistically. That feels quite crap.
Yeah. I want to like it.
Me too, Bob. It's like Prismatic Wall is kind of the same to me. We talked about Prismatic Wall relatively recently, and it often just feels like a monster either runs through it or waits 10 minutes. And all the effects happen at once, or none of the effects happen at all. And because all the walls are just like layered damage, at least the like breaking down the Prismatic Wall has a little bit more interesting stuff to it, because each wall hypothetically needs to be broken by different stuff. Prismatic Spray is just damage. Like, there's nothing else interacting with the varying colors, and that's really, really boring. That's not some big flashy fun randomness thing that it should be. That's a really big bummer. I wish we had effects like just a stack, like if you just slapped on a condition to every single one of these.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Damage plus a minor condition.
Damage plus slow, damage plus stun, damage plus whatever, right? And you could even make the spell simpler to track and more random by doing that, right? Which I think would be a net positive for the spell. Like, if you made it petrified for just a minute as opposed to permanent petrification, you could just have it be attached to a single save. If you had it, you could have all of the effects be the same clause. They repeat the save at the end of their turn, ends on early on, whatever. You could have it be a fairly more manageable spell, as opposed to just like, well, we have to track the indigos differently than we have to track the violets, which are sometimes going to be affecting more different kinds of creatures depending on the 8s. And I look at that and I'm like, this feels clunky, and like it was not in the oven long enough, like they could probably should spend another week and a half on this to be like, all right, team, let's keep brainstorming. This isn't quite where it needs to be yet. And that's where it ended up.
Yeah, I agree. You got a Sam score for this one?
I think this is a 2. I don't want to say it's entirely uncastable, because there are like, rolling Violet is really powerful if it fails twice. Rolling Indigo is nifty, but quite bad. Well, I won't say quite bad. Restraining condition is fine. And it does restrain for like a guaranteed long amount of time if it fails the initial save. But like, the damage is awful. For a 7th level spell, 10d6 damage is not it. That's 5th level fireball damage. So for 2 levels slower on an upcast spell, we're down in damage. Nope, that's not where you want to be. So whenever the floor and the most likely outcome is bad damage, I can't recommend the spell to anyone.
Yeah, I'm going to go up to a 3. It's not as good as I thought, but yeah, it's okay damage with the potential for really good damage, and I like the restrained condition. Blind, not so much, but yeah, and I don't even like the banishment thing. if I want to kill something, I want to kill it.
Sure.
But I do like a little bit of rambling, not rambling, randomness, and I
Oh,
like.
both.
I was gonna say a little bit of gambling.
Oh, that too.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm giving it a 3, right in the middle. That's my whatever.
I'm into it.
All right, I guess we're done. That was Prismatic Spray, and I like the name.
Sure.
Yuck. All right, everyone, that was Prismatic Spray. Thank you, Sam, and thank you everyone for listening and watching. We will see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it. A gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description, where you'll find my Caverns Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.